this gentleman. He is the voice of SRX, Thursday Night Thunder on ESPN for season number 3 on the call. Allen Bestwick joins us. Allen, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you tonight?
Doing really well, and it's fun to hear all the Bridgewater businesses advertising and all. It's territory I'm well familiar with, so it's a lot of fun.
Well, you and I now have something else in common. We've both had our feet in the door in the booth at Seekonk, so we do have that. And it was funny to bump into you there last year, and it's good to see you up here in your neck of the woods. Of course, Rhode Island guy, and you certainly make the rounds when you're in New England. So it's good to talk to you.
I'm actually headed back to Seekonk in a couple of weeks for the Boston Louis Classic again, the Boston Louis Memorial, and looking forward to getting a chance to catch up on a Saturday night with some old friends.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into things on the SRX side of things. You're in year number 3 now, and couple of changes that have obviously come around this year is you guys are moving to ESPN, which you've been at ESPN before, and you're going to Thursday nights. Talk to us a little bit about the changes to this season and what you're looking forward to with some of the storylines.
Yeah, so, any product, I don't care what it is, whether it's, an iPhone, a restaurant, in this case, a racing series, has to evolve. Has to change, has to freshen up to keep growing over the years. So here we are, season 3 with SRX, and Tony Stewart was actually the biggest proponent of moving to Thursday nights for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a very it's a place on the racing calendar each week that SRX can basically own. Right, Saturday nights you're competing against, maybe you've got a cup race that's running that Saturday night, or an IndyCar race or something. Thursday nights is a wide open platform. So that was motivation one, is to kind of carve out its own spot on the calendar. And the other thing that does is it opens up the roster of superstar drivers to more currently active drivers who can compete on a Thursday night before they go, off to what their regular job is, if you will. Especially with some of the collapsed schedules, particularly in NASCAR these days, where a Cup driver might not even get on the racetrack until Saturday. Thursday night for a Kevin Harvick or a Denny Hamlin or people like that becomes very doable for them. And so we've got a bigger roster of superstars in our own spotlighted place on the racing calendar for 6 weeks in the summer, and it just seemed like a good idea.
So one thing I picked up on right away when the schedule was released and the change to ESPN and all of that was that both of the voices from my childhood are going to mesh together and call the SRX race up at Thunder Road. You and DW, what is that like? I'm sure you're looking forward to working with a Hall of Famer like DW.
Yeah, always. I mean, we've known each other for decades, and Darryl brings a couple things that just are wonderful to the partnership working together. He brings a spirit of great fun and a great passion for the sport. Darryl and I did a show together a long time ago. It was actually one of the Tony Stewart Prelude to a Dream shows at Eldora, and we worked together on that one, and it was just a lot of fun. And I don't know that we've worked together since, because we were always on opposite networks. So looking forward to it. Going to be great fun. Thunder Road, a terrific place that believe it or not, even as a New Englander, I've never been. Though I've known Ken Squire for years and heard all the stories, and I can't wait to experience it myself for the first time.
They just built a brand new booth up there in anticipation for you and DW rolling into town, so it should be a good time. I went there for the first time last year, and it really, really is an enjoyable track.
Hey, Alan, it's Ben here. You were talking about a product evolving. How would you say your broadcasting has evolved in your entire career?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ben. Experience and reps bring knowledge. If the phrase you learn from your mistakes, is true, and it is. I've made every mistake you can make, and hopefully been smart enough to learn from it. The wisdom of time to be able to step back and, with a broader brush, examine the product, and an open-mindedness to kind of fine-tune it. So, when you do radio, you move south, you jump in with MRN, you're calling a turn. And you don't know anything about it the first time you do it, how it works or how MRN works or, any of it. And you learn and you understand, and then they move you to a new role. And you learn and you understand. Now you jump into television. No idea how television works, And you do it and you learn. And so I would say to you that overall my ability as a storyteller has greatly evolved over time, what's important in a broadcast and how to say it in 30 seconds or less. And the ability to understand that a volume of words doesn't necessarily mean a quality of words or a quality of thought. I very much, there are two things that I learned that very much drive how I think about television. One is that people can't have fun watching television if you're not having fun making television. So even if you had a bad day, you broke your toe on the stairs up to the booth, whatever it is, it can't be a bad day. You got to have fun doing this because that's what people are tuning in for, is to have fun watching. And the other part is the fewer words I say, the more impact those words will have.
Good.
And you stop and you think about that for a minute.
Very true.
So the fewer words I say, the more impact those words have. Those two things have come to guide everything that I do in this business, and I think they're philosophies with a very solid base behind them.
Hey, Allen, this is Paul Scally. I want to take a second and thank you for doing the Boston Louis race. I participate in that series, and I was a very personal friend of Bobby Seymour's dad, Boston Louis. I worked for him back in the day, and it's really a nice thing that you guys come out and do that for us, and it really makes that race really special. As a racer, I'm telling you that, and it means a lot to me.
I appreciate that.
Yep. Going on.
Ken,
go ahead.
Ken Schrader, just to tell you how that came to be, Ken Schrader obviously is raced for and knows the Seymour family, very dear to them.
Yep.
And Kenny and I have been good friends for many years. And Ken connected Bobby and I, and they knew my family. My dad raced at Seekonk, had race cars at Seekonk way back when I was a young kid. So that's kind of how all that came to be. Is, hey, we're doing this. Do you think you can make it? And well, yeah, that date actually does work. I can make it. So that's how that all came to be, and it's a lot of fun for me to be there.
When I was a teenager, I had the luxury of working with Boston, and it was, not knowing who the man was really, but just kind of being around, you kind of learned about it, and really was a great experience for me. One thing I'd like to ask you about working SRX, when you're there in the race and you're trying to portray this story to the fans, right? I mean, you actually get down there and interact with the fans before this goes, and what's that all about, and what are you trying to get to learn about the fans when you're there talking with them?
One of the great design elements of this series, Ray Evernham, who came up with it, wanted to show off these great short tracks in America. So you think about these fans that I'll use Seekonk as an example, that go to Seekonk Speedway and have gone there every Saturday night or most every Saturday night for forever. They take great pride in Seekonk Speedway, right? It's their track. And the local heroes who race there are their racing heroes, and they take great pride in them. We want to take that track, its traditions, its community, and make that part of the story we tell for being there that night. We call it sense of place. We want to give you a sense of the place we're coming to you from. And every place is unique. Stafford, Last year we uncovered a story about, what is Stafford Springs? Well, they thought it had healing powers, and a president used to sneak up here to dip in the springs. And, okay, right, wasn't that unique? Thunder Road. Well, look, why did they race on Thursday nights? There's a whole story about that you've probably heard, but we'd like to tell that story. Hey, the big prize for winning their biggest race of the year, you get to kiss a cow. No kidding.
Yep.
The governor races every Thursday night. What? Really? So every place, there's something unique about it, and we want to tell you what is unique about it, and maybe make it that thing that sticks in the back of your mind that, I'd really like to go there someday and check it out.
So one thing you've been doing, obviously, you've got your shoes. You're busy this summer with SRX, but in the spring recently, you've been, if I'm not mistaken, you're doing the PA and broadcasting at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Tell us a little bit about the experience from the Indy 500 this year.
So when Roger Penske took over the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, one of the things that he wanted to do was continue to constantly upgrade the experience for the ticket buyers, the people that are coming in and making the race what it is. And, Indianapolis is so big. If you're sitting in turn 1, you can't see what's happening in turn 3. But they have these massive jumbotrons all over the property. And they have a sound system that literally they developed in conjunction with Bose. It's like a Bose R&D project. And you could see those boards clearly from any seat in the house, and you could hear that PA clearly from any seat in the house. And so what they wanted to do was basically produce the public address broadcast like a television show. So they have an entire control room and a producer, director, tape, graphics, cameras, the whole thing, replay, and they do it like a television show. And they put a guy in charge of it who used to be in charge of motorsports at ESPN. And when the rights changed from ABC to NBC, he called me up and he said, "What are you doing in May?" I know exactly what, or I wouldn't have called you. So I get to go and basically do a television show for the 300,000 people in the house for the month of May. And it's a great group. It's a lot of fun. And I can tell you that there's no other place on the planet I would rather be during those 3 weeks than in that booth at Indianapolis. It's that much of a special thing.
Excellent. So we've been talking with Allen Bestwick, the lead announcer and voice of SRX on ESPN for this coming year, 3rd year in a row. And Allen, obviously a lot of the schedule is already sold out for SRX, but Thunder Road still has just under 500 tickets. For the casual fan who might be listening tonight, what's the pitch to get them out to one of the 6 scheduled SRX races this season?
Well, I mean, it's a pretty simple one, Miles. These are the greatest superstars in American racing. People you've watched win Daytona and win Indianapolis and race at Le Mans and all the great places around America and around the world. And they're going to be on these little tiny great short tracks in these 12 identically prepared cars and knock around and have fun for a couple hours. And that's exactly what it's about. Great superstar drivers competing against each other, having fun for a couple of hours on these wonderful, legendary short tracks. And, it's a unique experience. I can tell you, I've been to a zillion races at Stafford Speedway, but the 2 SRX races the last 2 years, the atmosphere has been unlike anything I ever experienced there in person. And we'll be again here in a week, I can guarantee you.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate the conversation, and I think Ben and I will certainly make it a point to say hello up at Thunder Road in a couple of weeks. So we appreciate the time, Allen, and again, thank you so much, and the invite's always open to have you on here.
Have a great night, and enjoy the racing this weekend, and we'll look forward to saying hello in person.
All right, sounds good. Allen Bestwick, voice of SRX, joining us here on Miles on Motorsports tonight.